The SEAL commander smirk said it all. Another paper pusher pretending to be an operator. But when the enemy ambush turned his elite team into sitting ducks, and their $1 million training couldn't save them, Lucy King did something that made every man on that ridge question everything they thought they knew about warfare. She picked up a rifle they didn't know she had, walked into a kill zone alone, and put 5 rounds through 5 targets in 3 seconds flat. The commander's exact words whispered through gritted teeth as he watched her work. "No woman shoots like that." He was right. No woman did. Because Lucy King wasn't just any woman. And what happened next would force America's deadliest warriors to confront a truth they'd never wanted to face. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimated. The C-130 shuddered through turbulence over the Hindu Kush, its cargo bay packed with men who'd learned to sleep through anything except Lucy King. She sat perfectly still in the canvas seat, eyes open, watching the play of shadows as the aircraft bucked and rolled. 28 years old, compact build, dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun that made her face look severe. She wore the same desert fatigues as everyone else, the same body armor, the same expression of professional boredom, but her eyes, gray like winter storms, tracked every movement in the cargo bay with an intensity that suggested she was cataloging threats that didn't exist yet. Across from her, Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reeves caught her gaze and looked away first. That had been happening a lot since she joined their transport. The SEALs didn't know what to make of the woman from Joint Special Operations Command, who detached herself to their mission like a barnacle in a ship's hull. Her file said, Intelligence Analyst. Her bearings said something entirely different. 30 minutes to drop, the loadmaster called over the engine noise. The SEALs stirred, checking weapons with the kind of casual efficiency that came from doing the same ritual 1,000 times. Lucy remained motionless except for her hands which moved through her gear with methodical precision. Sidearm, magazines, medical kit, communications equipment, everything exactly where it needed to be. Everything within reach without thinking. Lieutenant Commander Jack Hawthorne made his way down the cargo bay, grabbing overhead straps for balance as the aircraft pitched. He was everything Central Casting would order for a SEAL officer. Tall, broad-shouldered, square-jawed, with the kind of confidence that came from never truly failing at anything that mattered. He stopped in front of Lucy, looking down at her with an expression that wasn't quite hostile, but wasn't welcoming either. "King," he said, voice pitched to carry over the engines. "Let's be clear about expectations. This is a direct action raid. You stay with the command element. You observe. You take notes. You do not engage unless we're being overrun and you have literally no other choice. Clear." Lucy looked up at him with those storm gray eyes. "Crystal, sir. I mean it. I've got 12 shooters who've trained together for months. We don't need heroics from the intelligence section." "Understood." Hawthorne waited as if expecting her to say more to protest or make excuses. When she just returned his stare with perfect calm, he grunted and moved on. Behind her, she heard Petty Officer Secondus Danny Torres mutter to his swim buddy. "Bet you $20, she freezes up the second round start flying." "No bet," came the response. "They always do." Lucy filed their voices away, memorizing the tones, the speech patterns, the underlying assumptions. Intel work had taught her that people revealed more in casual conversation than in formal briefings. And right now, these men were revealing exactly what she'd expected. They saw her as a liability wrapped in bureaucratic red tape. The aircraft's loadmaster began the final approach checklist. Lucy closed her eyes and began her own ritual, one that nobody else in the cargo bay would understand. She didn't pray. She didn't visualize success. She simply acknowledged what she was about to walk into and accepted it with the clinical detachment of someone who'd learned that emotion was baggage you couldn't afford to carry. The ramp dropped and Afghanistan's dawn air rushed in. Dry, cold, tasting of dust and diesel fuel. The SEALs moved out with practiced efficiency, boots hitting packed earth in a tactical formation that had been drilled until it became instinct. Lucy followed, keeping her assigned position in the command element, close enough to observe, but far enough back that she wouldn't interfere with the real operators. Except Lucy King had never been just an observer. And before this day ended, everyone would know it. The compound sat in a valley like a wound in the earth, surrounded by terrace hillsides that had been farmed for generations. Pre-dawn light painted everything in shades of gray and purple, making the mud brick walls look like something from a sepia photograph. Intelligence said the target, a high-value Taliban commander, was inside with his security detail. Intelligence said 6 to 8 fighters, light weapons, minimal sophistication. Intelligence, Lucy knew from bitter experience, was often optimistic. The SEALs moved through the approach with textbook precision. Lucy stayed with Hawthorne in the radio operator, watching as the assault element closed on the compound. She could see Chief Reeves moving point, reading the ground for IEDs, checking corners with his rifle, tracking smooth and controlled. These men were professionals, the best America had to offer. And something was wrong. Lucy felt it before she could articulate it. That crawling sensation between her shoulder blades that combat veterans learn to trust. The compound was too quiet. No dogs barking, no roosters, no sound of life stirring with the dawn. Just silence pressing down like weight. "Sir," she said quietly to Hawthorne. "Something's off." He glanced at her, irritated. "They're asleep. We're here before Revi. That's the point. No dogs. Rural Afghanistan. No dogs. Maybe they ate them. King, I need you to." The first explosion shattered the dawn silence like glass. Not inside the compound, behind it. A massive IED that had been buried in the approach route. Time to detonate after the assault element passed, but while the support element was still in the kill zone. Lucy felt the shock wave punch through her chest as a column of flame and smoke erupted from the hillside. Men were down, screaming. The radio came alive with frantic calls for corpsmen, for situational reports, for someone to explain what the hell just happened. And then the shooting started. Not from the compound, from the terrorist hillsides, from positions that had been prepared, fortified, turned into fighting positions by someone who understood exactly how American Special Operations Forces conducted raids. Muzzle flashes sparkled like malevolent stars as automatic weapons fire rad the valley floor. The ambush was perfect. The SEALs had walked into a trap designed specifically for them. And now they were pinned in a kill zone with wounded men and no cover. Hawthorne was shouting into his radio, trying to coordinate a response, trying to get his scattered team to rally. Lucy watched with cold calculation as rounds kicked up dust around their position. She counted muzzle flashes, estimated ranges, identified the enemy's probable command element based on which positions fired in. Coordinated bursts. Her hand moved unconsciously to her sidearm, then stopped. Not yet. Not unless absolutely necessary. A SEAL went down 10 meters to her left, clutching his leg where a bullet had found the gap in his armor. Another dragged him toward a low wall. Rounds snapping past their heads with sounds like angry hornets. The fire base was supposed to provide overwatch. Where the hell was the fire base? Outpost Delta is under attack, the radio operator reported, his voice tight with stress. Heavy contact. They can't support. Of course, they couldn't. This wasn't an opportunistic ambush. This was a coordinated operation hitting multiple targets simultaneously designed to isolate and destroy an American Special Operations element, and it was working. Lucy keyed her own radio, speaking on the command frequency with calm that bordered on eerie. Heathen 6, this is Cypher 7. Request immediate air support coordinates to follow. Multiple enemy fighting positions dug in. Estimate 30 to 40 combatants prepared defenses. Cypher 7, Heathen 6. Be advised, air assets are 20 minutes out. Can you hold? Lucy looked at the chaos unfolding around her, at the SEALs fighting desperately against an enemy that held every advantage. 20 minutes might as well be 20 hours. Negative. Heathen 6. We need it now. Working at Cypher 7, stand by. Standing by wasn't an option. Another SEAL went down. This time not getting back up. The corpsman who tried to reach him took fire that forced him back into cover. Lucy could see the enemy commander now, or at least where she thought he was, based on which position was controlling the other's fire. A terrorist position halfway up the hillside, perfect angles into the valley, hardened against counter-battery fire. Chief Reeves made it back to the command element, breathing hard, a cut above his eye leaking blood down his face. "Sir, we're getting torn apart. We need to move. Need to find cover. Something." "There is no cover," Hawthorne snapped. "It's all kill zone. They planned this perfectly. Then we die here," Torres demanded, his earlier swagger replaced by the sharp edge of fear. Lucy stood up. Just stood up, calm as someone rising from a church pew. Every SEAL stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Standing in a firefight was how you got shot. Everyone knew that. Everyone except Lucy King, who was already moving toward a low berm that provided marginal cover and a sightline to the enemy positions. "King, get down," Hawthorne roared. She ignored him. Her hand went to the small of her back beneath her vest and produced a weapon that definitely wasn't standard intelligence analyst issue. The rifle was compact, black, custom-modified in ways that spoke of very specific requirements. A suppressor that suggested someone wanted to work quietly, optics that cost more than most cars. She deployed the bipod with one smooth motion and went prone behind the berm, cheek to stock, breathing already controlled. Through her scope, the enemy positions resolved with crystalline clarity. She could see muzzle flashes, see movement behind rock fortifications, see the heat shimmer rising from barrels that had been firing too long. "What the hell?" Reeves started. Lucy's first shot was nearly silent. Just a suppressed crack barely audible over the ongoing firefight. On the hillside, a figure operating a PKM machine gun suddenly pitched backward, his weapon falling silent. The other SEALs didn't even realize what had happened until Lucy was already transitioning to her second target. The rifle cracked again, another fighter down. This one had been directing fire, coordinating the ambush from a protected position. He'd thought he was invisible, safe behind his stone breastwork. He'd been wrong. Lucy worked through targets with mechanical efficiency. Each shot was deliberate, calculated, final. She wasn't trying to suppress the enemy or make them keep their heads down. She was systematically removing them from the battlefield, one precise shot at a time. The kind of shooting that looked easy but required years of training, perfect understanding of ballistics, and the kind of cold nerve that most people never developed. The SEALs watched in stunned silence as their intelligence analyst transformed into something else entirely. Her shots were finding targets at ranges that should have been impossible with such a compact weapon. She was compensating for wind, elevation, even the rising heat of the day with adjustments so subtle they looked like instinct. A rocket-propelled grenade team was preparing to fire into the pinned-down Americans. Lucy put a round through the gunner's chest at 400 meters, transitioning immediately to the loader before he could pick up the weapon. Both men dropped within 2 seconds of each other. The RPG clattered down the hillside unused. "Jesus Christ," Torres whispered. "Who is this woman?" Hawthorne was watching through his scope, tracking Lucy's shots, seeing the enemy position collapse under fire from someone who wasn't supposed to be carrying a weapon, much less using it with this level of expertise. "King, what the hell are you?" She didn't answer. Her world had narrowed to the scope picture, to the gentle pressure of the trigger, to the rhythm of controlled breathing and precise trigger press. The enemy commander, or who she'd identified as the commander, was trying to reposition. She could see him moving between terraces, thinking he was concealed by the terrain. He was wrong about that, too. The shot was difficult. Moving target partially obscured at a distance where most shooters would have trouble hitting stationary paper. Lucy led him by exactly the right amount, squeezed when everything was perfect, and watched through her optic as the figure collapsed mid-stride. The effect on the remaining fighters was immediate. Without central coordination, their disciplined fire became sporadic, uncoordinated. Individual positions started making decisions based on survival rather than tactics. And survival meant withdrawing, getting away from the invisible death that was finding them no matter where they hid. Lucy fired 3 more times in quick succession, each shot finding a target who thought they were safely retreating. The lesson was stark. There was no safe retreat. Not from her. "They're breaking," Reeves said, disbelief in his voice. "She's breaking them by herself." The firefight didn't end with dramatic finality. It just stopped. The enemy positions fell silent one by one, either because their occupants were dead or because they'd fled into the hills. The valley filled with an almost oppressive quiet broken only by the moans of wounded men and the crackle of flames from destroyed equipment. Lucy saved her weapon and stood, showing no visible emotion, no satisfaction, no relief, no aftermath adrenaline shakes. She just stood there, weapon held ready, scanning for threats that no longer existed. Hawthorne approached slowly, like someone approaching a dangerous animal they weren't sure was tame. "King." His voice was different now. No dismissal, no condescension. Something closer to awe mixed with apprehension. "What the _ was that?" She looked at him with those gray eyes. "That was me keeping your team alive, sir. Intelligence analysts don't shoot like that. Nobody shoots like that. I'm not really an intelligence analyst." No underscore underscore, so, what are you really? Lucy ejected her magazine, checked the chamber, then reloaded with movements that spoke of thousands of repetitions. The person they send when intelligence isn't enough. The person they send when they need someone who can read a situation and fix it. The person, she paused, meeting his gaze directly. They send when they need targets eliminated, and nobody can know who did the eliminating. The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Reeves broke it, his voice carrying across the valley. We've got wounded who need immediate evacuation, and we need to police this area before someone higher up the food chain decides to hit us with mortars. Hawthorne was still staring at Lucy. How many did you get? 17 confirmed. Maybe 3 more that I'm not certain about. 17. He said it like he was testing the word. In how many minutes? Does it matter? Yeah, it matters because I've been doing this job for 12 years and I've never seen anyone shoot like you just did. The question I'm asking myself is whether you're an asset or a threat. Lucy slung her rifle across her chest. Right now, Commander. I'm the reason your men are going home alive. That's all that should matter. She walked away, heading toward where the corpsman was working on wounded SEALs, leaving Hawthorne standing alone with thoughts that he'd probably never fully process. Behind him, Torres and his swim buddy were having a quiet conversation. Did you see that underscore underscore? I saw it. I don't believe it, but I saw it. Who the hell is she? Someone way above our pay grade, brother, way above. The sun was higher now, burning away the morning chill, painting the valley in harsh light that revealed every detail of the firefight. Spent brass littered the ground. Blood stained the dust, and in the middle of it all, Lucy King moved among the wounded with calm efficiency, helping the corpsman stabilize men for evacuation. She didn't look like a cold-blooded killer who just eliminated 17 enemy fighters with clinical precision. She looked like exactly what her file claimed, an intelligence analyst doing her job. But everyone who'd witnessed what happened in this valley now understood a simple truth. Files lied, appearances deceived, and the most dangerous people were always the ones you never saw coming. The Chinook helicopter's rotors beat the air into submission as it touched down in a swirl of dust and debris. The wounded went aboard first, strapped into litters or walking with assistance depending on their injuries. The rest of the SEAL element followed, moving with the careful efficiency of men who just survived something they hadn't expected to survive. Lucy was the last one to board. She stood at the edge of the landing zone, weapons slung across her chest, scanning the ridge lines one final time, looking for threats that might still materialize, looking for survivors who might want revenge. Looking because that's what you did when you were the person responsible for killing 17 men before breakfast. Hawthorne grabbed her arm as she reached the helicopter's ramp. Not roughly, but firmly enough to stop her forward movement. We need to talk when we get back. Full debrief. I'll provide a written report. I don't want a written report. I want to know who you really work for and what the hell you were doing on my operation. Lucy pulled her arm free gently. I work for the same country you do, Commander. I was doing my job. That's all you need to know. Underscore underscore, that's all you're going to know, sir. She emphasized the rank without making it sound like mockery, though it came close. Now, let's get these wounded to medical attention before we have this conversation again. The flight back to the forward operating base took 40 minutes. Lucy sat alone near the crew chief's position, methodically cleaning her rifle while the SEALs clustered together, processing what they'd witnessed. Some were treating wounded. Some were staring into space with the thousand-why stare of men replaying combat in their heads. A few were stealing glances at Lucy, trying to reconcile the quiet woman breaking down her weapon with the lethal efficiency they'd witnessed in the valley. Chief Reeves finally broke away from his team and took the seat next to her. He didn't say anything for a long moment, just watched her hands move through the cleaning ritual. Oilcloth wiping carbon from the bolt. Boar snake running through the barrel. Every movement precise, economical. My daughter wants to join the military, he said finally. Marine Corps. I've been trying to talk her out of it, telling her it's no place for women, that she'll never get the respect she deserves, that the men will never really accept her. Lucy kept cleaning, not looking up. You should stop. Stop what? Lying to your daughter. Because that's what you've been doing, lying. You've been telling her she can't when you should have been helping her prepare for the fact that she absolutely can. Reeves was quiet. Then how long have you been doing this? B.